Away everyone, this is the Regulus Pastor. Welcome back to Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. This is Watanagashi-hen, the second story arc of the 8 main arcs. And, there we go. And, I'm excited to return to it. When we left off, we found out that, Tomitake-san and Takano-san had died the night that we broke into the tool shed with them. And since 2 people have died, that means, according to the cursed custom, that a proportionate number of people, 2 people in this case, would have to disappear. And the obvious candidates would be Keiichi and Shion. But the village chief, or the mayor, Kimiyoshi-san, has disappeared instead of one of us. So that's an interesting plot development. And no one's been able to find him, but there's been extensive search going on. So let's see. We left off in the middle of a chapter last time. After dinner, without the energy to watch TV, I climbed into the futon in my bedroom and let my head be overtaken by gloomy thoughts. I know what that feels like. Oi, depression can be a whirlwind. I told Rika-chan anything and everything. She had seemed trustworthy at the time, but had that really been the right choice? The more I looked back on it, the less I understood what Rika-chan was saying. Not only did she know about Takano-san and Tomitake-san's deaths, but she spoke of them as if she were a concerned party. After all this time, in my futon, I began to tremble fiercely. Had I been lured in by Rika-chan's sweet smile? I had told her things I shouldn't have? I should have continued to feign ignorance. I shouldn't have shown her such a weak side of me. My emotions are a mix of regret and fear, and it colored the darkness of the night with an additional layer of terror. Blah. Blah, 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 blah. Suddenly, I might have yelped. That's how surprised I was.
Keiichi!
Keiichi!
さっきから呼んでるぞ。
I've been calling your name for a while.
電話だ。
You have a phone call.
園崎さんから。
It's from Sonozakis. It was Dad. I reached out for the cordless phone through the gap in my door.
園崎さんってどっち?
Sonozaki-san, which one?
姉?
The older sister? Or
妹?
The younger?
そんなのは知らん。
I don't know.
自分で出て聞きなさい。
Ask her yourself. I took the receiver and buried myself in my futon again.
もしもし。
Hello?
ミオンか?
Mion?
シオンか?
Or is it Shion? Let me get my phone simulator out again.
私です。
It's me.
シオンです。
Shion.
こんばんは。
Good evening. I practically jumped out of bed. It was Shion, who I hoped so desperately would call me back last night.
シオン! ゆうべはすまなかった。
Shion! Sorry about last night.
つい興奮して。
I got all riled up. I heard what sounded like a deep sigh on the other end.
俺もシオンも同じ立場なんだよな。
You and me are in the same position, aren't we?
一方的に責めるような言い方をして悪かった。
I shouldn't have blamed you for everything like that.
もうしない。
I'm sorry.
謝るから機嫌を直してくれ。
I'm sorry, so please cheer up.
機嫌を直したから電話したんです。
I called you because I'm in a better mood.
後悔したなら許してあげますから、もう謝るのをやめてください。
If you're sorry, then I'll forgive you, so please stop apologizing. Shion's tone still sounded a little angry, but for the moment, she said she'd forgive me.
ケイちゃんの言うように、私たちは運命共同体なんです。
You're right, too. We're tied to the same fate.
互いの無事の確認が自分たちの安全の唯一の保証なんです。
Making sure the other is alright is the only way to guarantee our own safety.
ああ、それについては同感だ。
Yeah, I agree.
だから私たちは互いの知っている情報を共有する必要があります。
We absolutely need to share whatever information we have.
高野さんたちみたいな死に方をしないために。
So that we don't die, like Takano-san and Tomitake-san did.
I have forced myself to swallow a solid drop of saliva.
では、昨日の続きを話します。
How does a drop of saliva become solid? I mean, unless it's like it gets on your skin or something and you just leave it there, maybe then, but not if it's in the back or in the bottom of your throat.
Then let's continue from where we left off.
もう怒らないで聞いてくれますよね。
You listen without getting angry this time, right?
あ
Yeah,
あ、大丈夫だ。
I'll be fine.
まず、
Firstly,
私たちが思っている以上に最後殿に忍び込んだことは禁忌、タブーだったみたいです。
it seems sneaking into the ritual storehouse was more of a taboo than we thought.
Takano-san and Tomitake-san's miserable ends, terrible enough that you could call them a warning. They were more than enough to make me believe that.
犯人たちは最後殿を怪我した首謀格のあの二人を殺し、次に私たちを狙います。
The culprits killed those two, the ones responsible for sullying the storehouse, and they'll come for us next.
否定したいでしょうが、これを認めてください。
I know you want to deny that, but please accept it.
失踪してから認めてももう遅いんですよ。
It'll be too late to believe me after you've disappeared, okay?
分かってるって。
I got it.
用心に越したことはないからな。
You can never be too careful after all.
私も本当は認めたくありません。
I don't want to accept it either.
あんな拷問道具の博覧会を覗き見したことがあんな殺され方をする理由になるなんて
To think
絶対に信じたくない。
that sneaking a peek at that museum of torture devices deserves a death like that. I don't want to believe it.
That's what a taboo is. For those who honor it, if one breaks the taboo, no matter how small or innocent their intentions were, they wouldn't be forgiven.
互いに何か気になることがあったら報告し合いましょう。
Let's report anything we notice that seems strange.
互いの持つ小さな断片を合わせていけば、ひょっとすると高野さんたちを殺した、いえ、今年の事件に限らない。
If we connect all the tiny pieces that we have, then just maybe we'll find out who killed them. Or maybe even the truth behind the incidents of the previous years.
過去の連続事件を解決する鍵が見つかるかもしれません。
We could find the key that'll resolve everything.
そうだな。
You're right.
確かにそうだ。
You're right about that. All I was doing was waiting in fear, but Shion had already thought that far ahead. Given how trustworthy she felt, I became embarrassed over how passive I was being.
では、まずは言い出した私からいきます。
Then I'll start, since I suggested it.
最近、誰かに監視されているような気がしま
I feel like somebody has been watching me lately.
What?
す。と言っても、気のせいかもしれません。
It might be my imagination, but
でも、一応報告します。
I'll tell you anyway.
今は気のせいだと思っていますけど、もしもケイちゃんも同じように誰かに監視されているように感じるなら、
I think it's just me, but if you feel like you're being watched too, Kei-chan, then
これは気のせいじゃないのかもしれませんから。
maybe it's not just my imagination.
そういうことなら安心しろ。
Well, don't worry.
少なくとも俺の方は大丈夫だ。
At the very least, everything's been fine for me. I think. As I spoke with Shion, I thought back on today. I had no grounds to say that everything was fine.
そうですか。
I see.
では気のせいということにしますが、ケイちゃんも注意してください。
Then I suppose it was my imagination. But you be careful too, Kei-chan.
特に一人で表を歩くときは、 細心の注意を払ってください。
Be especially careful when you're by yourself in public.
私は沖宮ですから、一人きりになることはそうそうありませんが、ケイちゃんはひなみ沢です。
I'm in Okinomiya, so I won't be alone very often. But you live in Hinamizawa.
一人ぼっちになることも多いはずです。
There will be a lot of times you'll be alone.
特に注意してください。
Please be extra careful.
そうだな。
You're right.
ああ、気をつけるよ。
Yeah, I'll be careful.
それから、お姉なんですが、何か変わった様子はありませんか？
Also, how about my sister? Has she been acting strange lately?
お姉ってミオンのことか？
Your sister. Oh, Mion. Right.
変わった様子ってどういうことだ？
What do you mean by acting strangely?
先日、私、お姉に渡流しの夜の所在について問いただされました。
Well, yesterday, She came to me and asked me where I was on the night of Watanagashi.
それは俺もだよ。
She asked me too.
一昨日かな。ミオンに聞かれた。
The day before yesterday, I think Mion asked me.
やっぱりですか。
I see.
私は言ってないと答えました。
I told her I wasn't there.
ケイちゃんは？
What did you say?
同じだよ。
I did the same thing.
ごまかした。
I just dodged the question. Both of us gave a quiet sigh of relief.
渡流しの晩以降、お姉の様子はおかしいです。
Ever since the night of the festival, my sister has been acting strangely.
用心に越したことはありませんので、注意してくださいね。
We can't be too careful, so just be aware, okay?
Mion was acting strangely. Besides from her asking me about the night of Watanagashi, she hadn't seemed too out of the ordinary. At least from my point of view. Her twin sister, though, was saying she was acting weird. Maybe it was such a slight change that a stranger like me wouldn't be able to notice.
わかった。
Oh, got it.
少し用心するよ。
I'll start being careful.
帰り道は必ずレナも一緒だから、二人きりになるってこともそうそうないしな。
I'll always have Rena with me on my way back from school, so I shouldn't end up alone with Mion very often.
用心してください。
Please be careful.
気になることがあったら教えてくださいね。
If there's anything that's bothering you, you can tell me.
わかった。
Alright.
では、ケイちゃんの方では何か私に話すことはありませんか？
Okay then, is there anything you want to tell me, Kei-chan?
My turn. That's right. Maybe I should report an Ōishi-san asking me the same question at the library.
あ、ケイちゃんが逃げ遅れたあの時の話ですね。
Oh, that time when you were too slow to escape?
ああ、
Yeah.
大石さんにかなり強い口調で聞かれたよ。
Excuse me. Just had to clear my throat a little. Yeah, Ōishi-san asked me pretty forcefully.
あの晩、高野さんたちと一緒にいなかったか、シオンに会わなかったかって。
Whether I was with Takano-san and Tomitake-san that night, and whether I'd seen you.
大石さんは俺たちが4人一緒にいたところを見ていたようだった。
Ōishi-san seemed to have seen the four of us together.
警察にしてみれば、高野さんたちが最後に会った人間ということになりますからね。
From the police's point of view, that would make us the last people who had seen them.
私たちに興味を持つのは、ある意味当然でしょうね。
I suppose, given that, it's only natural that they'd be interested in us.
こっちもごまかしたけど、かえって興味を持たれたかもしれない。
I evaded the questions then too, but that might have just made them more interested. There's no way I could have tricked that sly old fox Ōishi-san. My troubled countenance would have only made him even more certain.
なあ、シオン、
Hey, Shion.
警察なら言っちゃってもいいんじゃないのか？
Since they're the police, shouldn't we just tell them?
むしろ俺たちの状況を思えば警察を味方につけるのはプラスだと思うぞ。
I mean, considering our situation, I think having them on our side would be a good thing. Shion didn't answer right away. For a few moments, all I could hear was her breathing as she thought about it.
そういえば大石さんはミオンに何らかの嫌疑があるなんて言ってたような気がする。
Now that I think about it, Ōishi-san said there was something possibly shady about Mion. At least, I think that's what he said. Yeah.
確かにそう言ってた。
Yeah, he definitely did.
昨日も話しました通り、園崎家はひなみ沢に強い影響力を持っています。
As I explained yesterday, the Sonozaki family holds a lot of influence over Hinamizawa.
大石は一連の連続開始事件を園崎本家が中心になった村ぐるみの犯行だと疑っていますから。
Ōishi is under the impression that the whole village, with the Sonozaki family at the center of it all, is responsible for the recurrent freak deaths.
園崎家が中心になった村ぐるみの犯行？
The whole village is behind them? With the Sonozaki family at the center? Please don't get angry like you did yesterday. Just listen. I hammered that home before I got too upset.
ひなみ沢のダム闘争の時、リーダーシップを期待された神主があまりに日和見だったので、園崎本家が首謀格になって決起したんです。
During the Hinamizawa Dam Wars, the priest who everyone was anticipating to lead the anti-dam movement acted as though he were unrelated, so the Sonozaki main house rose up to take charge.
戦いの歴史についてはお姉から聞いてますよね。
My sister told you all about the battles that happened, right?
ああ、
Yeah,
ひなみ沢全体で一丸となって戦ったんだろう。
all of Hinamizawa got together and fought as one.
デモをしたり裁判に訴えたりテレビに出たり。
They held protests, brought it to court, and even appeared on TV.
実際はもっともっと過激なこともたくさん行われたんです。
In reality, there are many things that happened that were far more extreme.
園崎本家が水面下でさまざまな違法な抵抗活動を行ったと言われてます。
Under the surface, the Sonozaki main house was doing all sorts of illegal things to oppose it.
違法な抵抗活動？
They were acting illegally.
例えば夜中に建設現場に忍び込み機材を盗んだり壊したり建設重機のガソリンタンクに角砂糖を入れたりとか。
For example, they would sneak into the construction site in the middle of the night and steal equipment, or break it, or put sugar cubes in the gasoline tanks of the construction vehicles.
ガソリンタンクに砂糖？
Sugar in their gasoline tanks?
なんでそんなことを？
Why would they...
知らないんですか？
Sorry.
You don't know?
戦争中にフランスの地下組織なんかがやった典型的なゲリラ活動ですよ。
It's practically the representative guerrilla tactic. It was used by underground organizations in France in World War II for one.
They probably, they probably should have translated this as the epitome of guerrilla tactics or something like that. Or the go-to guerrilla tactic.
砂糖を入れるとエンジンが焦げついて壊れちゃうんですよ。
When you put sugar in, the engine gets burned out and breaks down.
That's pretty bad though, isn't it? It was destruction of property and nothing less.
建設現場への監視が強化されると今度は工事の重要な立場にある人間への攻撃に変更されました。
When they beefed up the guard at the construction facility, the family turned to attacking important construction personnel who worked there.
例えば工事を認可した役人たちには様々な脅迫が行われました。
The government officials who had given permission for the construction, for example, received all kinds of threats.
それは県庁の役人だけでなく建設省の偉い役人にまで及んだそうです。
Not just people from the prefectural office either. Apparently this reached as far as the Ministry of Construction.
聞いた話では子供の誘拐までやったとか。
As far as I've heard, they even kidnapped a child once.
誘拐
Kidnapped? Sorry if that peaked the mic. Kidnapped?
ええ、
Now I've got to put it closer.
Yes. Yes.
There we go.
建設庁の南沢ダムを担当する偉い人の子供が神隠しにあったんですよ。
I don't want to make my voice sound like a pubescent boy's.
The child of an important person in the Ministry of Construction who was in charge of the Hinamizawa Dam got spirited away.
で、ある日突然、南沢のもっと上流の高津戸の山中で保護されまして。
Then, one day, all of a sudden, he was rescued in the Takatsudo Mountains, which are upstream from Hinamizawa.
犯行声明はなかったって言われてるんですけど、ダム工事を中止するようにとの脅迫があったのではないかと囁かれています。
Apparently, there were never any criminal accusations, but people whispered that it had been a threat to stop the dam construction from happening.
他にも枚挙にいとまがないほどの脅迫の話があります。
Besides that, there are stories about so many different threats that I couldn't possibly list them all.
それは確かにちょっとやばいな。
That's... wow. That's sort of bad, isn't it?
そんな最中だったんですよ。
Right in the middle of the whole thing,
第一の事件、
the first incident happened.
現場監督のバラバラ殺人があったのは。
That's when the dismemberment of the construction manager occurred.
園崎家が主犯格の男を買収したのではと囁かれてますが、何しろ今日も逃走中ですからね。
People whispered that the Sonozaki family had bought out the principal offender. But, of course, he fled and they still haven't found him.
When she put it that way, the Sonozaki family definitely seems suspicious. Okay, yawn's starting to come in. There we go. Getting it out of the way.
犯人も口封じで消したんじゃないかって大石は思ってるみたいです。
Ōishi-san even seems to think that the criminal was erased, so he wouldn't talk.
That yawn was threatening to build, and I fended it off just long enough to finish that one line.
当然ですね。
Which is pretty reasonable of him.
身内である私ですら、
It's even enough to make me think.
園崎本家の暗躍があったのではないかと思ってるくらいですから。
That the Sonozaki main house is doing some really shady things behind the scenes, even though I'm related to them.
それを俺に信じろってのか？
Are you telling me to believe that?
ミオンの園崎本家がそんな悪いことをやってきたと信じろというのか？
That the Sonozaki main house, where Mion lives, has done all those bad things? You're telling me to believe it?
ケイちゃんが信じなくても村人たちは信じてます。
Even if you don't, Kei-chan, the villagers do.
自分たちが綺麗な抵抗運動をする陰で園崎家が汚い抵抗運動をしてくれた。
While they opposed the dam in upright and lawful ways, the Sonozaki house did the dirty work for them.
自分たちの矢面に立って戦ってくれたんだってみんな思ってます。
Hit the mic again. I keep doing that. Crap.
Everyone believes that they fought at the front, so they'd take the brunt of the criticism.
ですからちょっとしたダークヒーローとして崇められているんですよね。
So they're respected as sort of heroes of darkness.
私が知っているのは本当に一部だけだと思います。
I think I only really know one part of it.
例えば誘拐なんかの特にヤバい話は当主のバッチャーを含めほんの数人しか知らされてないと思います。
For example, the really bad stuff, like the kidnapping. I think only a handful of people even know about it, including Grandma.
園崎家は秘密主義ですから。
The Sonozaki family is secretive after all.
秘密主義か。
Secretive. Huh? A family so unforthcoming that even Shion, who is related to them, doesn't know everything about them. The yawns. The Sonozaki family, unlike Shion, her older twin, Mion, was deeply involved with everything. and that was not a fun thought to entertain.
そういった違法な抵抗運動の中心として年少ながら活躍したのがお姉でした。
My sister, though young, was the one who acted as the center of the illegal resistance movement.
ミオンが
Mion was...
どういうことだよ。
What do you mean?
うちのお父さんヤクザの大物ですから。
Well, our dad is a big shot yakuza.
年少のお姉でも若い柄の悪いのを何人も従えることができました。
Even when she was little, my sister managed to subjugate a bunch of young street rats.
ミオンが
Mion did that?
何度も補導されたんですよ。今はなんだかのんびりした雰囲気だから想像もつかないでしょうが。
She was detained several times, although she's pretty laid back now, so it might be hard to imagine.
子供ですからすぐに釈放してもらえたみたいですけどね。
Though, since she was a kid, they could get her released pretty easily.
Detained is not the same as arrested. So there wouldn't be like a criminal record of it.
お姉は自分の年齢が武器になることを知ってたみたいです。
She learned that her age could be used as a weapon.
It may have been indiscreet, but I couldn't help but chuckle dryly. She may have been young, but she was certainly still Mion. Even back then, she had already been known for her craftiness.
笑い事じゃないです。
It's nothing to laugh about.
真剣になってください。
Please take this seriously.
悪い。そんなつもりじゃ。
Sorry. I didn't mean to. Shion had gotten pretty angry at me.
まあ、そんな不良娘だったお姉もいつの間にか園崎本家の重鎮。
Well, her delinquency soon got her into a position of authority in the Sonozaki main house.
大石がバラバラ殺人以降の事件を疑いたくなるのもまあ無理ないことです。
It's not unthinkable that Ōishi suspects them for the dismemberment incident, and the later ones too.
For a few moments, I was dumbstruck at the tales of Mion's past. None of them matched the image I had of her. A younger Mion, dirtying her hands with all sorts of crimes, giving the dam construction project heck. As a successor to the Sonozaki main family, she was always right at the center of the vortex of strange incidents occurring year after year. Was that really the Mion I know? Maybe the one I know isn't the real Mion. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't bring myself to accept these images of Mion I was hearing from another person.
まあ話を戻します。
Well, back to the main subject.
お姉が注意に値する存在であることは理解してもらえたと思います。
I just wanted you to know that my sister is someone worth being cautious around.
注意してください。
Please, be careful.
I didn't want to understand. Mion was a fantastic friend. She would never do something to back me into a corner like that. She did ask me pretty harshly about the night of the festival, but even that, it wasn't like she'd said it in a mean way or anything.
わかった。
Alright. What is he saying alright to? I forget exactly. Okay. Her sister is someone worth being cautious around. Please be careful. Okay.
気をつけるようにするよ。
I'll make sure to be careful.
私とお姉は血のつながった姉妹ですが、園崎家にあってはまるで格が違うんです。
We're sisters related by blood, but within the Sonozaki family, we're basically of a different class.
私とはとても遠い存在だということを認識してください。
I want you to recognize how distant my position is from hers.
お願いします。
Please.
The more Shion tells me about Mion, the less I understand who Mion is. The Mion I know wasn't a dangerous person. She joked around, smiled a lot, and was full of passion. Now that I'd realized I held such a view towards her, Shion was telling me to change it. To be careful around the best friend ever. To doubt her. The idea was very sad. painful.
で、大石の件ですが、
Now, about Ōishi.
ケイちゃんがいいと判断するなら、必要な情報を与えてもいいと思います。
If you think it's a good idea, then I think we should give him the information he needs.
やはり警察を味方につけるのは、私たちに有利に働くと思います。
I think getting the police on our side will work in our favor.
やっぱりシオンもそう思うか？
You thought so too, Shion.
ただ、今説明した通り、園崎の人間はそもそも警察に睨まれているんです。
It's just, at the moment, like I explained, the police have their eyes on the Sonozaki family already.
特に大石は、園崎家が丸ごと連続事件の黒幕だと決めてかかってますからね。
Ōishi in particular completely believes that there are masterminds behind the serial incidents.
それはもちろん私も含めてです。
That includes me, of course.
ですから、私はあまり大石には関わりたくないんです。
So, I don't really want too much to do with Ōishi.
I see. If Ōishi-san had found out about the Sonozaki family's strife-filled history, then he probably wouldn't be very happy with Shion either. At last, I understood Mion's instinctive dislike for Ōishi-san.
どうせバレてはいるんですが、一応私の名前を伏せておいてください。
It's probably out in the open at this point, but try not to give my name to him.
それだけ守ってくれれば、大石には何を話しても問題ないと思います。
If you agree to that, then I don't think there's a problem with you telling him anything.
わかった。
I got it.
伏せるようにするよ。
I won't mention your name.
警察の捜査力は、今の私たちにはとても心強い武器になると思います。
The police's investigative ability should be quite a reliable weapon for us right now.
大石が興味深い話をしたら、私にも聞かせてくださいね。
If Ōishi tells you anything interesting, then let me know as well.
ああ、もちろんだ。
Yeah, of course.
情報は互いに交換し、研究し合おう。
We'll share information and investigate together.
高野さんたちを殺したのは誰なのか。
Who killed Takano-san, Tomitake-san?
そして俺たちを狙うのは誰なのか。
Who was after us?
それが分かるまで、俺たちは自衛しなくてはならない。
Until we know, we need to defend ourselves.
あとはありますか？
Anything else?
大石に聞かれたこと以外は。
Besides what Ōishi told you, I mean.
身に起こったことは、どんな些細なことでも教えてください。
If anything has happened, no matter how minor, please tell me.
Well, there was the thing with Rika. Aside from my discussion with Ōishi-san? Oh. Should I tell her that I revealed everything to Rika-chan? Rika-chan was acting like she knew something I didn't. She told me to leave it to her. But what? That's right. When I was talking to her, I mentioned Shion's name too. Was that a mistake? I felt like Shion would get angry.
何もないんですか？
Nothing else?
ケイちゃん、
Get-cha?
I had remained quiet for a little while, so Shion encouraged me to speak, unable to bear the silence.
えっと、
As I struggled with what to say, Shion addressed me instead.
ないようでしたら、私から聞きたいんですけど。
Ah, so convenient.
It doesn't sound like it, so can I ask you something?
私もついさっき聞いたんですが、君吉のおじいちゃんが行方不明になったって本当ですか？
I just heard this myself. Is it true? That old man Kimiyoshi went missing?
The old man Kimiyoshi? My gut told me that was the name of the mayor.
村長さんのことか？
You mean the mayor?
なんだシオン、聞いてないのか？
Wait, Shion, you haven't heard?
何も知らないです。
I don't know anything.
お父さんが電話でそう話してるの、また盗み聞いただけですから。
I just overheard my dad talking about it on the phone again.
I realized I shouldn't have said that. Here in Hinamizawa, the things that happened around this time, when Oyashiro-sama's curse would recur, would all be covered up.
ああ、
Yeah,
実はな、昨べ会合の後、 家に帰ってこないとかでひなみ沢中で大騒ぎになったんだ。
Actually, last night, after a meeting, he didn't come home, so all of Hinamizawa was confused.
村中で探したみたいだけど、まだ見つかったって話は聞かないな。
They searched all through the village, but if they found him, then I haven't heard.
警察も探してるはずなんだけど。
The police should be searching for him as well.
なんでそんな大事な話を先にしてくれなかったんですか？
But why didn't you tell me something that important right away?
She shouted angrily at me, bringing all her emotion to bear.
悪い。もう知ってると思ってたんだよ。
Sorry, I thought you already knew.
隠す気なんかなかった。
I didn't want to hide it or anything. The receiver was silent. Did Shion get mad again and hang up?
おい、シオン、もしもし？
Hey, Shion! Hello?
ケイちゃん、私どうしよう。
Keita, what did I do?
Shion's tiny, confused voice sounded like it belonged to a different person than the one yelling a few seconds ago.
どうした？
What's wrong?
話せよ。
Tell me.
俺たちの間で隠し事はなしだろ？
We're not keeping secrets from each other, right? Shion hesitated for a long while, but then she confessed.
ごめん。
I'm sorry.
隠すつもりはなかったんです。
I didn't mean to hide it.
ちょっと言うのが前後したっていうか。
It was just that, the conversation got turned around and...
俺たちは仲間だろ。
We're on the same side, right?
怒ったりしないから正直に話せよ。
I won't get mad, so tell me honestly. Shion still hesitated for a few moments. Then, in a resigned voice, she continued.
私、君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
Kimiyoshi, I told him everything.
Shion seemed to think I would yell at her right after she said that, so I heard her catching her breath. Contrary to what she thought, I was a little relieved. Shion had done the same thing I had when I confessed everything to Rika-chan. So, in as gentle as a voice I could, so as not to set her off, I responded.
君吉のじいさんってのはシオンにとって相談できる心安い人なんだろ？
Old man Kimiyoshi. He's someone you feel comfortable confiding it to, Shion.
はい。
Yes.
私のことを小さい頃から本当に可愛がってくれて。
When I was little, he was really nice to me.
Shion felt the same pain as the rest of us from the mayor's disappearance. She had a different kind of strength from Mion, and as she continued, her voice sounded truly sad and pained.
私、いつも意地悪なことをしてたのに、いつもニコニコと笑って。
All I did was play tricks on him, but he would always just smile.
私の言うことは何でも聞いてくれて。
He listened to anything I had to say.
本当に優しい人だったのに。
He was such a kind person.
落ち着けよシオン。
Calm down, Shion.
別に死んでしまったわけじゃないだろ。
It's not like he's dead, right?
そんな簡単に諦めるなよ。
Don't lose heart so easily. Shion didn't answer. Even as I said it myself, I didn't think we'd ever find the missing mayor again. We probably wouldn't even figure out if he was alive or dead. Shion must have been thinking the same thing.
村長さんに。
That night,
私、あの晩、
I told the mayor
最後でに忍び込んだこと、
that we snuck
打ち明け
into
たんです。
the ritual storehouse.
誰かにそれを見られてて、私たちを狙っている人がいるって。
Also, that someone saw us and was out to get us.
村長さんは高野さんたちがまともじゃない死に方をしたのを知ってるのか？
Does the mayor know how absurdly Takano-san and Tomitake-san died?
はい、
Yes,
知っていました。
he knew about it.
あの二人がお社様のたたりで死んだから、 私はその怒りを鎮める生贄にされるんじゃないかって。
I told him that they died by Oyashiro-sama's curse, and that I could be made a sacrifice to calm his anger.
本当に率直に言いました。
I just said it straight out.
あ
Right.
あ、それで
What then?
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。
One man, Kimiyoshi, didn't get angry.
そしてにっこり笑って、しおんちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら鬼隠しになんかなるものかって。
He smiled and then told me that if I was properly sorry about it, there was no way I'd be demoned away.
本当に笑いながら任せなさい。
He was really smiling, and he told me to leave it to him.
Until Shion stopped sobbing, I was unable to find any words for her. I couldn't imagine what kind of person the mayor was, nor what Shion's relationship with him was like. Words of comfort, however, mean so much to us when we're about to be crushed by anxiety. Today, Rika-chan taught me that too. If someone who gave me such a sense of security were to disappear, then I could guess what kind of shock Shion was in.
私のせいです。
It's my fault
私が打ち明けてしまったから。
because I revealed everything.
よせよシオン。
Stop it, Shion.
シオンのせいじゃないよ。
It's not your fault.
No!
私のせいなんです。
It is my fault.
私が打ち明けてしまったから。
I taught him everything.
君吉のおじいちゃんが知ってしまったから。
I'm making she found out about everything.
だから殺されてしまったに違いないんです。
So he accidentally killed.
だって打ち明けてすぐなんですよ。
It was right after I told him. After all,
打ち明けて大丈夫って言ってくれたその晩に消えてしまった。
he disappeared the same night that I confessed, and he told me everything was gonna be alright.
He found out, so he became involved.
話すんじゃなかった。
I didn't ever tell him.
これは全部私たち4人の動画だったはず。
All of us, this isn't just our fault. Only the four of us.
3人に話してはいけないことだったんです。
It was something I should have told to someone else.
話したから殺されてしまった。
He got killed because I told him.
だから殺されてしまった。
He got killed because he knew.
打ち明けたから殺されてしまった。
He got killed because I revealed it.
おい待てよ。
Oh, my throat. I'm doing that high-pitched voice. Hey, stop!
そんなやつなら打ち明けた村長を殺す前にお前から先に殺すに決まってるじゃないか。
If they were doing that, then they would obviously have killed you before killing the mayor.
順番が違うよ。
The order is all wrong.
殺されるなら俺かシオンが先。
You or I should have been killed first.
他の奴らが先に死んだりするものか。
Why the heck would someone else get killed first?
順番はあります。
No, it's in order.
私たちを一番最後に殺すつもりに違いないんです。
They must be planning to kill us next of all.
は？なんだって？
What? What?
人を思いに殺さないで親しい人たちから順々に殺していって散々悲しい思いをさせた後に殺す、そういう狙いに違いないんです。
They might killing the first people who got to mind. They start by killing those we're close to. And then after they've caused us so much pain, they'll kill us. That must be what they're doing.
落ち着けって。
I said calm down.
シオンは今ショックを受けてパニックを起こしてるだけなんだよ。
Shion, you're in shock. You're panicking.
村長の失踪はシオンとは関係ない。
The mayor's disappearance has nothing to do with you.
無関係だ。
It's unconnected.
高野さんたちの死とも 全く関係ないんだ。
It's not related to Takano-san or Tomitaki-san dying at all either! My words came out as a scream, as if I were shouting them at myself.
No! It is connected! It just has to be! I told him so he was killed! He got killed because he knew! I confessed it to him, so he got killed!
She repeated the same thing as before, as though she were in a delirium. There's a pattern here. There's a pattern here. Last arc it was Keiichi. Now this arc is Shion. And Keiichi's not quite out of the clear. He's just less symptomatic, I'd say. Despite my trying to console the crazed Shion, for some reason, the shadow at my feet began to freeze. From that shadow, a cold arm reached out. So cold it seemed like it would freeze even my heart just by touching me. It grabbed my ankle. The heat generated by my body. The arm was absorbing it. It was a horrible chill. Freezing cold. Numbingly frigid. It was an inviolable chill of fear. Though I sympathized with Shion, I had been naive in thinking it was something only she had to worry about. In my head, Shion's eerie words repeated again and again. He was killed because I told him. He was killed because he found out. I confessed everything. So he was killed. Those words echoed through my head like a monotone mantra. And finally, those even repetitions took on meaning. The quiet shaking that had already overtaken me turned into a violent shiver that shot up my spine.
Rika-chan!
Rika-chan!
Rika-chan だ!
It's Rika-chan!
What?
今、なんて言ったんですか?
What did you say just now?
俺も、実は、打ち明けたんだ。
Well, the truth is, I told her about it.
リカちゃんに、今日
I told Rika-chan today.
リカちゃんって、リカちゃまのことですか?
Rika-chan? You mean Rika-chama?
フルデ神社のリカちゃま?
The one from the Furude Shrine?
そうだよ、リカちゃんだよ。
Yes, Rika-chan!
俺も、どうしようもなく不安で、打ち明けたんだ。
I felt so scared and uneasy that I did it.
リカちゃんに、
I told Rika-chan.
そうしたら、リカちゃまはなんて?
When you did, what did you say? The cat is worrying too much. I'll do something about it for sure.
That's what Rika-chan said. And then she smiled. She smiled, just like the missing mayor had when he incurred Shion. Shion. Sorry, I butchered the pronunciation there.
ごめん、シオン。
I'm sorry, Shion!
俺、ちょっとリカちゃんのことが心配になっちゃって。
I'm worried about Rika-chan!
はい。
Right!
そんなに心配でしたら、ぜひ電話を。
If you're that concerned, then don't worry about me.
安否を確認してみてください。
Please, go find out whether she's safe.
ああ、そうさせてもらう。
Yeah, I'll do that.
また明日も、このくらいの時間に連絡します。
I'll call you again tomorrow at the same time.
それをもって、私の安否確認としてください。
When I do, you know I'm still alright.
わかった、待ってる。
I got it. I'll be waiting.
じゃあな。
Okay, bye!
すまん。
Sorry,
切るぞ。
I'm hanging up. I put down the receiver without waiting for Shion to say goodbye. The danger to Shion and myself was secondary at this point. My sixth sense was blaring alarms in my head. I don't like this feeling. It's really bad. It's definitely bad.
くそ、無事でいてくれ。
Darn it. Please be safe.
リカちゃん。
Rika-chan! Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. Okay, let's see what tips we get. You have received new tips from the scrapbook 8. Their punishment isn't over. So let's just save it quickly while we're thinking about it and while we have the opportunity presented to us on a silver platter, so to speak. Well, let's view the tips. The three families in modern times. As previously described, the Three Families Council today is a mere shell of democracy. In reality, it is a dictatorship run by the Sonozaki family. Both the Kimiyoshi and Furude families are far from their former glory, and it doesn't seem at all like they've maintained the ancient traditions. Only the Sonozaki family has retained their glory from the past, and has inherited many colorful traditions from the age known as Ōishi village. Even the most recent verifiable example of Watanagashi that occurred at the end of the Meiji era seems to have been done under the orders of the Sonozaki family. Refer to the three families' genealogical tree from the late Meiji. After the start of the Meiji era, the Sonozaki family wanted to push the development of Hinamizawa village, so they took a strong role in leadership. During the Dam Wars a few years ago, the Kimiyoshi family served as the chair of the opposition alliance, but this was in name only. In actuality, the Sonozaki family reigned as leader behind the scenes. People whisper that perhaps the Kimiyoshi family dictated acts of opposition that could be publicized, and the Sonozaki family enacted those which could not. Even in Hinamizawa, they whisper that the multitude of unsettling incidents reported during the dam protest, such as the kidnapping of the famous head of the Ministry of Construction's son, had been carried out by the Sonozakis. Additionally, they say that perhaps the Sonozaki family's secret maneuvering was responsible for the serial freak death incidents that have continuously occurred in recent years as well. The serial freak death incidents are without a doubt the second coming of the traditional Watanagashi. They must be enacting the Watanagashi on the day of the original Watanagashi, which has fallen to the level of an ordinary village festival, in order to remind the villagers of the holy laws of the Ōishi village. It's safe to assert that exploring the Sonozaki family is the fastest route for researching it today. If I can expose the contents of the Furude Shrine's storehouse, I'd like to narrow my research target to the Sonozaki family next. The Sonozaki house is strictly guarded by security cameras on the premises. Odd spelling? But thankfully, I've become acquainted with the sisters Mion, the next heir, and Shion. I want this to be a breakthrough I can connect to my next line of research. Okay. So, do we have any more from Takono's scrapbook? I don't think so, but I'll check. Excuse me. Okay, we just have this one. Their punishment isn't over. Sorry.
いえいえ、気にしないでくださいよ。この店でおでんを食べるとですね。
No, don't worry about it. You see, when you order the oden here...
なぜか年計のガソリンスタンドの請求書に化けちゃうんですよ。
For some reason, it ends up on the annual invoice for our gas contracts.
だから遠慮しないでもう一杯飲んでいけばいいのに。
So, don't be shy and have another drink.
The man, red-faced, waved his hand to say that he'd had enough. and disappeared into the brilliant neon lights in front of the station.
クマちゃんも勉強しといてくださいよ。謙虚な人が結局一番長生きするんです。
Kuma-chan, you should be taking notes. The most modest people are the ones who live the longest.
さっきの話、本当っすかね？
Was all that true?
さて、それはわからないですけどね。真偽はともかく、そういう話がまことしやかに流れてるってことには意味があると思いますよ。
Well, I don't know about that. Whether or not it's true, I think there's meaning in hearing something that sounds so plausible.
そんなのが村長を狙う動機になりうるんすかね？
Would something like that be a motive to go for the mayor?
クマちゃん、いつも言ってるでしょ。動機っていうのは、その本人に十分でありさえすれば足りるんです。
Kuma-chan, here's what I always say. The motive only has to be enough for the person in question.
価値観の違いをよく考えなくちゃ。
You need to think about how different people value different things.
お母さん、もう一杯ください。
Hey, bartender, give me another mug.
Though we have been suppressing the information, Famitake and Takano's deaths were already known throughout Hinamizawa. I'm just gonna guess the narrator is Kumagai. All of the rumors pointed to them having incurred the wrath of Oyashiro-sama for setting foot in the Forbidden Temple, the storehouse for ritual implements. According to the rumors, there were two other people who went in there with them, Sonozakis-Shion and Maebara Keiichi. People were whispering in the shadows that those two would be cursed by Oyashiro-sama as well. Apparently, however, the responsibility didn't fall solely on the four trespassers' shoulders. Until last year, it was locked up tight, but this year it had been changed to a simpler lock. Hadn't that been what allowed thieves to enter so easily? Those were the rumors going around.
クマちゃんは見たことありませんか？私はずいぶん前に何かのようで行った時に見たことをよく覚えてますよ。
Have you ever seen it, Kuma-chan? I remember it well. I had to go there for something quite a while back.
すみません。ちょっと思い出せないっす。
Sorry, I don't really remember.
そりゃもう、おっかないくらいに厳重に施錠してありましてね。重そうな缶抜きで、どっかりと塞がれていて。
It was locked up so tight it was scary. There were these real heavy bars holding it shut.
まるで大金庫みたいに厳重な蔵だったんですよ。
It was sealed up as good as a bank vault.
This year, it was a very simple and cheap padlock. The lone girl protecting the shrine, Rika, disliked the heavy locks and consulted with the mayor, who had replaced it with a simpler padlock.
だから村長とフルデリカも同罪ってことなんですか？だとしたら村長に続いてフルデリカもまずいじゃないですか。
Ooh, I like this alternate interpretation of what's going on. So then the mayor and Rika share the same crime? So then, after the mayor, wouldn't Rika be in danger next?
その可能性は大ですね。クマちゃん。
There's a decent possibility. Kuma-chan,
ひなみ沢を巡回している覆面者に至急連絡。
I want you to contact all the cars we have in Hinamizawa.
これで神社近辺に張り付かしてください。
Tell them to stick near the Furude Shrine.
了解っす。
Got it! Alrighty. Let's continue. I just thought about how the yawns stopped. It's good that they stopped, but now that I remembered it, they'll probably start again. Psychosomatic processes and whatnot. After hanging up on Shion, I searched for Rika-chan's phone number on my school's contact list. There it is! My fingers trembled with urgency, and I failed multiple times to put in the simple 5-digit number, Yep, 5-digit. 5-digit number. I guess it would have been 5 digits in Japan in 1983. Now in Japan, I think it's 6 digits, which would make sense. Because, the population of older people is pretty high in Japan right now. It's actually a, public welfare crisis. Because there are too many elderly people, be they retired or disabled or both, and so the labor force is kind of small.
Keiichi,
こんな時間に電話
are you calling someone at this hour?
夜遅くは先方に失礼だからよしなさい。
It's late, and it's being rude to the other person.
今はそれどころじゃないんだよ。
That doesn't matter right now! I shouted angrily at my mother, listening to the dial tone. Pick up! Come on, pick up! The time was 11 p.m. It certainly wasn't early. It was essentially the middle of the night. Had the Rika-chan already gone to bed? Her phone would be ringing constantly, though, so would she get back up for me? Rika-chan didn't pick up. She didn't pick up. She didn't pick up! Maybe she just happened to miss it. Maybe her bed was just too far away from the phone. The sound of a phone ringing gets clearer and clearer the longer you go on sleeping. Then, the bathroom? Yeah, she must be taking a bath. If that was the case, then even if she heard the phone, she wouldn't be able to pick up. It was a little late to be taking a bath, but it was possible she normally took baths right before going to bed. I'll wait 30 minutes and try calling again. Even as I was thinking that, I called her house over and over again. I kept calling. Over and over. Again and again. I kept on calling her, but she didn't pick up even once. I think I kept trying for about 30 minutes. Yet, she wasn't picking up. Are my phone calls so persistent that she had gotten scared of picking up the receiver? No, that can't possibly be it. There was no point in doing this any longer. The best thing to do would be to go there in person. Where was Rika-chan's house, though? Crap. I've never even asked her where she lived. Her residence was written there in the contact list, but it was an address with mostly numbers, so I couldn't tell where it was just by reading it. Isn't there a map or something in here? Rika. Her last name was Furude. It was a bit of an odd last name, so it might be easy to find. Thinking that, I rummaged around the drawer with the phone book, but I could only find things like takeout menus and phone numbers for public establishments. Crap. I tore one thing after another out of the drawer, but I didn't come up with any clues as to where Rika-chan's house was. Calm down, Maebara Keiichi. If you don't know, just ask. Ask someone who does know.
そうだ。レナなら知ってるに違いない。
That's it. Rena's gotta know. I looked up Rena's phone number on the contact list. Yugu Rena. There she was.
Moshi.
Hello.
Ryugu です。
Ryugu. Code switching. This is Ryugu. It was the voice of a grumpy-sounding man. It must have been Rena's father. I'm calling in the middle of the night. I need to be polite.
夜分遅くに申し訳ありません。
I'm sorry for calling so late at night.
前原と申しますが、レナさんはいらっしゃいますか？
This is Maebara. Is there any chance Rena-san is around?
レイナは風呂に入っていますが。出たかな。
Rena is taking a bath.
Oh, she's done.
レイナ、
Rena!
友達から電話だぞ。
There's a friend of yours on the phone.
Oh, right. Ryugu Reina was her real name, wasn't it? I got so used to calling her Rena that hearing her real name caught me a little off guard.
もしもし、
Hello?
お電話変わりました。
This is Rena.
俺だよ、刑事だ。
It's me, Keiichi.
夜遅くにすまん。
Sorry for calling so late.
あれ、
Huh?
ケイチ君、
Kate-kun?
こんな時間に何かな。
Why do you need at a time like this? Like this?
実はリカちゃんの家がどこにあるのか知りたいんだ。
Well, actually, I wanted to know where Rika-chan's house is. Rena seems a little appalled that I'd call her for something like that at this hour. However, she spoke her next words seriously, as if she'd caught on to how urgent my need was.
うん、
Okay.
いいよ。
Sure.
フルデ神社の境内に集会所があるよね。
You know the assembly hall on the grounds of the Furude Shrine?
その裏手に2階建ての倉庫小屋があるのを知ってるかな。
There's a two-story shack used for storage behind it.
そこに住んでるんだよ。
That's where she lives.
I couldn't immediately visualize the place, but as long as I knew she lived on the shrine grounds, I'd just have to take a look around.
わかった。
Got it!
ありがとう。
Thanks!
こんな遅くにすまなかったな。
That got it was a little too voice cracky. Breaking out the 13-year-old boy again. Sorry again for calling so late.
親父さんに謝っといてくれ。
Apologize to your dad for me too, would you?
そんなのはいいよ、ケイチ君。
Okay, but Kate-kun.
それより、どうしてリカちゃんの家を聞くのかな。
Why do you want to know where Rika-chan lives?
Rena asked in an unusually sharp way, holding me before I could hang up the phone. I hesitated for a moment about whether to tell her.
He was killed because I told him.
ケイチ君、
Kate-kun,
聞こえてるなら答えてほしいな。
if you're still listening, could you answer me?
どうしてリカちゃんの家の場所をこんな時間に聞きたいのかな。
Why are you asking where Rika-chan lives at a time like this?
Rena affected her usual tone, but beneath her words lay a certain tension, like she'd intuitively sensed something was going on. What will you do, Kate? If it's Rena, can't I tell her?
He was killed because he found out. I feel everything. Sophie was killed.
ケイチ君、
Sorry.
Kate-kun,
レナは真剣に聞いてるんだけどな。
Rena is being serious.
答えてほしいよ。
Please answer me.
Rena asked me once again in a tone so forceful I couldn't imagine her ever using it normally. I was taken aback by her vigor. Rena was Rika-chan's friend too. She had the right to be concerned about Rika-chan disappearing. If I told Rena then, even if only for a moment, I could drive away my horrifying fears.
レナ、理由を聞かれると困るんだが。
Rena, well, I can't exactly tell you why, but
うん、
Yes?
Rena's tone was seriousness itself. Just from that tone, I could feel her saying,
No matter what you say, Kate-kun, I'll believe you.
that subtle sense of security gave me the courage to reveal the truth.
リカちゃんが危ない気がするんだ。
I have a feeling that Rika-chan is in danger.
それは虫の知らせかな。
You mean like a premonition?
それともリカちゃんに危険が迫っている何か確信がある。
Or do you have some reason to believe she's in danger?
I really didn't have time to go back and forth with Rena about this. Still, I think listening to her calm voice soothed my pointless impatience.
確信はないけど。
I don't have much reason, but yet I still hesitated. I had told Rika-chan that we had snuck into the ritual storehouse. The mayor, to whom Shion had confessed before that, had already disappeared. So, it was possible that Rika-chan also... I didn't know how to explain it to Rena. While I was tongue-tied, Rena spoke up.
変なこと聞いてごめんね。
Sorry for asking something so weird.
考えたら確信なんか必要なかった。
I thought about it, and it isn't like you need to be sure.
Rena laughed a little, seeming a bit absent-minded. I wasn't exactly in the mood to laugh, so this time I was dumbfounded. Rena continued in a cheerful, yet still purposeful voice.
友達のことが心配になって。
You're worried about a friend.
それを確かめるのに理由なんかいらないと思う。
I don't think you need a reason to go and check on them.
仮にリカちゃんが寝ててそれを起こしてしまったとしても、それが理由なら私たちは誰も怒らないと思うよ。
Even if Rika-chan was asleep and you ended up waking her up, if that was why you did it, then none of us would get mad.
Rena, thank you.
じゃあまずは圭一君に確認するね。
Okay then, Keiichi-kun, just one thing.
リカちゃんの家に電話はしたんだよね。
You called Rika-chan's house, right?
それでどうしても繋がらないから家の場所を聞いてきたんだね。
Then you just couldn't get through, so that's why you asked me where our house is?
ああ、
Yeah, that's right.
10分以上は鳴らし続けたと思う。
I must have called her for over 10 minutes.
ひょっとしたら気づかなくて寝てるだけなのかも。
She could just be sleeping and not have noticed.
リカちゃんの家はとても狭いの。
Rika-chan's house is really small.
だから電話が鳴ったらたとえ寝ていても気づかないわけはないよ。
She would definitely hear the phone ringing even if she was asleep.
さとこちゃんもいるんだから2人揃って気づかないわけはない。
Satoko-chan is there too, so there's no way neither of them would notice.
サトコってリカちゃんと一緒に住んでるのか？
Satoko, you mean she's living with Rika-chan?
うん。
Yeah,
知らなかったの？
you didn't know?
今はその話は後ね。
Well, we can talk about that later.
とにかく電話をそれだけ鳴らして誰も出ないのは絶対におかしいよ。
Anyway, if you called that much and no one answered, then something's definitely wrong.
Rena understood this situation wasn't normal far faster than I could have ever imagined her to. It made her seem dependable. However, the fact that Rena had acknowledged this also meant that the best case possibility of it all just being a result of my own needless fears went out the window.
私も今からすぐにリカちゃんの家に行くね。
I'll go to Rika-chan's house right now.
一緒に行く？
Will you come with me?
なら迎えに行くよ。
I can show you the way.
わかった。
Sounds good.
じゃあいつもの待ち合わせ場所で合流しよう。
Let's meet up at the same place as usual.
待ってるぞ。
I'll be waiting for you.
ううん。
No, wait.
私、圭一君の家に迎えに行くから。
I'll come get you at your house.
だからお家で待ってていいよ。
You just wait there.
それからご家族に私と一緒にリカちゃんの家に行ってくるって伝えておいてね。
And tell your family you're coming with me to Rika-chan's house, okay?
うちでいいのか？
Will that be okay?
時間のロスのような。
We might lose time if you come here.
あと、みーちゃんには電話した？
Did you call Mi-chan too?
みーちゃんはこういう時すっごく頼もしいの。
She's really dependable at times like these.
まだなら私から電話しておくね。
If you haven't, then I'll give her a call.
My thoughts froze for a moment. Shion just told me to be careful around Mion during our phone conversation a little while ago. If the Sonozaki main house was somehow lurking behind the surface of the annual freak deaths, then the current heir to the family, Mion, wouldn't be uninvolved. So wouldn't that mean she was uninvolved in what happened this year to Takano-san and Tomitake-san, and also the mayor's disappearance?
じゃあね。
Okay, bye.
すぐに行くからね。
I'll be right over.
待っててね。
Wait for me.
That's all Rena said before hurriedly hanging up. Now wasn't the time to be doubting Mion. I needed to make sure Rika-chan was safe. I got changed and grabbed the key to my bike. I figured things would go more smoothly if we met up in the place we usually do before school. Rena wouldn't need to come all the way to my house. My parents would probably have objected if I told them I was leaving, so I creeped out without a word. The night was unusually warm and disagreeably humid. She said that Rika-chan and Satoko lived together, right? Then it wasn't only Rika-chan. Satoko wasn't there either? Realizing what them living together really meant caused my thoughts to immediately take a turn for the worse. That can't be. Satoko is. She's got nothing to do with any of this! Even if there were a reason for Rika-chan to disappear, there shouldn't be one for Satoko! Rena was really fast. She approached me on her bike at an amazing speed. Her breath was ragged, painting a clear picture of just how hurriedly she'd been going.
おうレナ。
Rena!
さあ行こうぜ。
Let's get going!
圭一くん、
Kate-kun,
私お家で待っててって言ったはずだよ。
I thought I told you to wait at your house.
Rena's expression was all business. Was she mad? It came out of the blue, and I faltered for a moment.
いやここで合流した方が早く出発できると思ってさ。
Well, I just figured it would be faster to meet up here.
圭一くんは本当に分かってるの？
Kate-kun, don't you get it?
Rena shouted, clearly angry. I'd never seen Rena like this before.
分かってるのかって何がだよ。
Do I get it? Well, what's the problem? Rena seemed to notice she was scaring me, took a couple of deep breaths, then continued as if admonishing me, but her expression didn't soften at all.
圭一くん、
Kate-kun,
昨日村長さんがいなくなって村中で大騒ぎになったよね。
the whole village is in an uproar now that the owner disappeared, right?
ああ
I used the wrong voice for a second.
The whole village is in an uproar ever since the owner disappeared, right?
Yeah.
そんな中で圭一くんはリカちゃんとサトコちゃんがいなくなったって言ってるんだよ。
Now you're telling me that Rika-chan and Satoko aren't where they're supposed to be, right?
あ
Yeah.
あそういうことになるな。
That about sums it up.
じゃあもっと用心しなくちゃダメだよ。
Then you need to be more careful.
こんな夜中にたった一人でこんなところで突っ立ってるなんて不用心にも程があるんだから。
Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to be standing out here alone in the middle of the night?
I began to understand where Rena's anger was coming from, but
ご家族にはちゃんと私とリカちゃんの家に行くって伝えたよね。
You told your family you'd be going to Rika-chan's house with me, didn't you?
万が一
So that in the worst case scenario.
私と圭一くんが揃って失踪しちゃうようなことがあってもいつどの辺でいなくなったのかを残すことができる。
If you and I were to disappear, people would know when and where we did.
Rena was perfectly level-headed in this emergency situation. Ever since the night of Watanagashi, every night someone had died or disappeared. On the night itself, Takano-san and Tomitake-san met strange ends. On the next night, the elder vanished. Now on the next night after that, Rika-chan and Satoko were nowhere to be found. I had been thinking of anyone but myself, but it wasn't enough to say that Hinamizawa was a little weird at the moment. It was, in fact, extremely strange. Rena had even anticipated her own disappearances. Then it told me to tell my family where I was going. I was embarrassed at my own carelessness. And the need to be embarrassed made me afraid of the night.
ごめん
Sorry,
まだ言ってなかった。
I didn't tell them yet.
うん。
Okay,
じゃあ一緒に言いに行こう。
then let's go tell them together.
With Rena beside me, I rode back towards my house. The moon seemed strangely high in the sky, a sky that was uselessly vast and cold, so that no matter what, it would never seem to me like a dream. This cruel fact had already confronted me. Wait. As their friends and their seniors, shouldn't Keiichi and Rena sacrifice themselves, put themselves at risk in order to just buy a little time? Possibly. Maybe. I mean, wouldn't that be the right thing to do? On such a crazy night, Rena had been unimaginably dependable. Hinamizawa's metamorphosis, enough to make Rena caution me against carelessness, was to me the most fearsome thing of all. The moon seemed strangely high in the sky. We met up with Mion on the way, and she, of course, was unsure whether to believe me about Rika-chan and Satoko's disappearance.
ケイちゃん、本気で言ってんの？
ケイちゃん、are you serious?
もし冗談だったらかなり怒るよ。
I'm going to get really mad if this is a joke.
Mion was clearly displeased. If this were a joke, it wasn't very funny. I understood how indiscreet my words were. Ever since the day before yesterday, someone had either died or vanished every night. Rika-chan and Satoko disappearing after all that was something you just couldn't say, even in jest.
みーちゃん、
みーちゃん。
本当に冗談だったなら怒るんじゃなく笑おうよ。
If it really is a joke, don't get mad. Smile.
だって冗談なんだから。
It would be a joke after all.
私たちはそれが冗談であることを確かめなくちゃいけない。
We need to go make sure whether it's a joke or not.
そうだね。
You're right.
機嫌の悪そうなことを言ってごめん。
Sorry for getting upset.
However indiscreet a joke it may have been, if we learned that our friends were safe, it would end up as nothing more than a funny story. Having been warned about that by Rena, Mion gave a dry smile, the tension she felt loosening a bit. She mounted her bicycle as well. Our 3 bicycles' lights flashed down the pitch-black roads. They were some of the only illumination outside.
ケイちゃんはなぜ急にこんな時間にリカちゃんの家に電話なんかする気になったわけ？
Kei-chan, why did you suddenly decide to call and ask about Rika-chan's house at a time like this?
Mion asked me the same thing that I had trouble explaining to Rena.
虫が知らせたじゃおかしいか？
Would it be weird to call it a premonition? I couldn't quite tell because it was dark, but I thought I could see Mion smiling very ambiguously. I definitely understood that she wasn't convinced, though, despite the darkness.
俺さ、うたた寝してる時に悪い夢を見るとどうしても気になっちゃうんだよ。
Well, I had this bad dream while I was snoozing, and I couldn't get it out of my head.
ケイチ君はそれでリカちゃんがさらわれる夢を見たわけかな。
Sorry. I really have to clear my throat.
So, did Rika-chan get kidnapped in a dream?
いや、その
Well,
もっと漠然とした予感みたいなものだよ。
it was more of a vague feeling, sort of thing.
リカちゃんが電話に出てくれたならレナやミオにも続けて電話するつもりだったよ。
If Rika-chan had answered the phone, I would have called you and Rena after that. Lies smoothly babbled out of my mouth, makeshift though they were. I was lying because I thought telling them I was connected to Shion would be like silently admitting we'd stolen into the ritual storehouse together that night. Mion didn't press me any further. I don't know whether that convinced her, or maybe she figured that making sure Rika-chan and Satoko were safe would be faster than making an issue out of it. I felt relieved, and immediately a little guilty. Mion hadn't really been acting any differently these last few days, but I'm still trying to distance myself from her for some reason. It was only because of what I heard from Shion and Ōishi that she was the successor to some kind of super extravagant gang family. No. Was I just trying to force myself to forget? Don't do that, Maibara Keiichi. Wasn't it Mion who was the first to ask about the night of the Watanagashi? In such a harsh tone at that. Have I already forgotten the terror I felt? At the time, Mion looked like someone different from the Mion I knew. When I think about that Mion, then Shion and Ōishi-san's description of Mion made a tiny bit more sense. That's it, isn't it? If it wasn't for how she acted that day, then I wouldn't be feeling this way towards her now. What on earth was going on with her back then? I was conveniently thinking only of everything she had done after that, while disregarding the very first thing. The thing I should have been looking at most, wasn't I? Mion was pedaling her bicycle in front of me, her long hair fluttering in the wind. No matter how long I looked at her back, it never gave me answers to any of my questions. We went all the way to the stone steps leading up to the shrine grounds. Of course, we weren't going to want to haul our bikes up there, so we parked them beside the staircase instead.
フルデ神社か。
So, this is the Furude Shrine.
みんな公園みたいな感覚で勝手に出入りしてるけど、本当はここはフルデ家の立派な私有地なんだよ。
Everybody comes and goes as they please, as if it were a park. But this place is actually a grand estate owned by the Furude family.
So the entire shrine is private property. It really makes you feel the passage of time. 10 or 20 years ago, it would have looked the exact same.
だとすると、フルデ家って結構な旧家なんじゃないのか？
Then, wouldn't that mean that the Furude family is really old?
代々続いた由緒ある。
With a history going back for generations?
うん。
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
ない。
they're gone.
おかしいよ。
That's odd.
Then I said something clearly disquieting, so I ran over to her.
どうしたレナ？
What's wrong, Rena?
リカちゃんとサトコちゃんはいつもここに自転車を止めてるはずなの。
Rika-chan and Satoko-chan always leave their bicycles here.
ほら、
See?
どこにもない。
They're gone.
I took a look around. Indeed, there were no other bicycles aside from the ones we'd taken to get here.
他の場所に止めてる可能性もあるんじゃない？
Couldn't they have parked them somewhere else?
例えば、担いで石段を上がったとか。
Could they have brought them up the stairs?
女の子には無理だよ、ケイイチ君。
Those girls couldn't do that, Keiichi-kun.
Just as she said. I couldn't imagine Rika-chan and Satoko lugging their bikes all the way up there. We hadn't yet knocked on Rika-chan's door, but reality was already sparking some ideas that weren't what you'd call good. Maybe they were just parked under some trees and we hadn't noticed them. I refused to believe that not being able to find their bikes here was proof that they'd disappeared.
行こうぜ。
Let's go!
家に行った方がはるかに確実だろう。
The only way to be sure is to check their house. We all nodded and dashed up the stone steps. We passed through the red dirt and came out onto the shrine grounds, which was covered in neat gravel. It was so quiet here, as though the Watanagashi festival had never happened.
で、リカちゃんたちが住んでいる家ってのはどこにあるんだ？
So, where's the house they live in?
こっち。
Over here.
ついてきて。
Come with me.
And Rena took the lead and sprinted off. We went towards the assembly hall behind the shrine, then looped around behind it. In the darkness of the night, we found a small prefab two-story shack that looked like a warehouse.
明かり消えてるね。
The lights are off.
寝てるんじゃない？
Are they sleeping?
ノックしてみよう。
Let's knock.
I'm troubled by Mion's grin. I don't know, that's just kind of the wrong kind of sprite to use for a dry chuckle, you know? Unless it means something more, but I don't want to read too much into it. Rena and Mion neared the shack, which didn't really look like a place people would live. They had such a beautiful shrine, so I figured they'd live in an equally beautiful house. It was far from what I had expected. Blah.
リカちゃん！
Hold on, let me move this way.
Rika-chan!
サトコちゃ
Rena shouted up towards the second floor. Her voice was restrained at first, but it steadily grew louder. No answer. In fact, there wasn't any sort of activity in the house at all.
寝てるのかもしれない。
They might be sleeping.
起こしてみよう。
Let's wake them up. Mion banged on the shutter with both hands, and the loud sounds echoed into our surroundings. They would have to notice this much noise. They would turn on the light in their room, fling open the windows, and yell, "What time do you think it is?" That, however, wasn't happening. And there was absolutely no response. Mion stopped slamming her fists on the shutter, and a sudden silence fell over us. The silence aroused terrible thoughts inside of us. I could feel the blood draining from my face.
鍵かかってる。
It's locked.
どこかから中に入れないかな。
I wonder if we can get into it somehow.
Rena showed no signs of stopping. It didn't look like she would admit they weren't there until we went inside and saw for ourselves. Their refusal to give in gave me strength.
2階の窓とか鍵をかけ忘れてないかな。
The second story windows wouldn't be locked.
俺ちょっと試してみる。
Well, you don't know that for sure. I'll give them a try.
ケイちゃん、はしご。
K-chan, a ladder!
In fact, they might specifically lock the second story windows because they're little and there'd be no match against burglars. Mion brought over a ladder that was standing against the house. The footing was a little unstable for me to be climbing it, but Mion held the ladder firmly in place for me. Well, I guess there wouldn't be any burglars that are local to the town, but anyway. I hadn't climbed too many ladders. My inexperience with them exposed, I climbed up one step at a time, and tried to open each window on the second floor.
みーちゃん、私念のため本宅の方も見てくるね。
Mita, I'm gonna go check the main house just to be sure, okay?
すぐ戻るから。
I'll be right back!
Rena darted away. What? A main house?
フルデ家の本当の家だよ。
It's the Furude family's actual house.
両親が亡くなって以来、ずっと放置してあるそうだけど。
After her parents passed away, I think it's been left like that.
あ、そうか。
Right.
リカちゃんのご両親って亡くなってるんだよな。
Rika-chan's parents, they passed away, huh? At that point, I recalled something else. Wasn't Satoko living here too?
サトコも親なしだよ。
Satoko's also an orphan.
親代様のたたりってことで、両親が崖から落っこちてね。
Her parents fell from a cliff because of Oyashiro-sama's curse.
お兄さんだったサトシ君もいなくなっちゃって。
Then her older brother, Satoshi-kun, he disappeared.
サトシって前に聞いた名前だな。
Satoshi. I've heard that name before. I remembered. He was the one who disappeared last year because of the curse.
それ以来、サトコはリカちゃんと一緒にこの小屋で暮らしてるんだよ。
Ever since then.
Ever since then, Satoko and Rika-chan have been living in this shack.
互いに身寄りのない一人ぼっち同士。
Neither of them has any family, but at least they're together.
助け合ってね。
They help each other out.
本宅って言ったか？
Rena said main house, didn't she?
そっちで暮らした方が楽だろうに。
Wouldn't it be easier to live there? The curtains were drawn, so I couldn't get a good look inside to see, but two young girls living together seemed like a pretty tough life.
初めはそうしてたみたい。
I think she tried that at first.
でも、両親を思い出すから辛いって言って。
She said it was hard though, because it reminded her of her parents.
I had no idea. I feel really bad for them. They were normally so cheerful at school that I never even realized an atom of this.
リカちゃんもサトコも大変なんだな。
Rika-chan and Satoko-chan. They have it hard, huh?
呪われてるんだよ。
She's cursed.
え？
Huh? Suddenly, Mion said something in such a low voice that it sounded like she was really cursing someone, and I didn't let it slide. I turned around on the ladder to face her and asked again.
ミオン、お前、今、なんて言った？
Mion, what did you just say?
呪われてるって言ったの。
I said she's cursed. Mion, still holding onto the ladder, brought her head up to look me in the eyes. As soon as our eyes met, an absolute zero jolt of electricity surged through my body. Mion's eyes clouded over, and within them boiled and bubbled, a stew of chaos. They whirled around and around like a raging sea, and bubbles floated to the surface. I had at some point been trapped on this ladder, like being cornered on a dead-end street.
ミオン、お前、なんて顔してんだよ。
Mion, why are you making that face? I intended to follow that up with, "You're going too far with this joke," and give her a forced smile. However, on such uneven footing as I was, the only thing that came out of my mouth was a hoarse groan as I desperately struggled to not let nausea overwhelm me.
北条聡子はね、
Hojo Satoko,
お社様のたたりを一身に受けた呪われた子なの。
she's been cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Mion answers, with a response to something I never asked, as if replying to somebody else's question.
公園の展望台から転落死したのは両親だけ。
The only people who fell from the park observation platform were her parents.
あの子をミソッカス扱いしてた冷たい両親だけが死んで、あの子は一人だけ助かった。
Only her parents, who treated her like dirt, died that day. She was the only one to survive.
引き取り先であの子をいじめたおばは、綿流しの夜に異常者に脳みそがぐっちゃぐちゃに飛び散って、頭が原型をとどめないくらいにめった打ちにされて殺された。
Then she was sent to live with her aunt, who treated her cruelly, and the aunt was killed on the night of Watanagashi by some deviant who beat her to death so violently her brains were everywhere and her head an entirely different shape by the end of it.
いつもあの子をかばってたサトシ君。
Then Satoshi-kun, who always protected her,
あの子の誕生日に突然消えてしまった。
he suddenly disappeared on her birthday.
あの子をいじめていなかったのに消されてしまった。
Someone made him
警
disappear.
察は家出したんだって決めつけたけど、サトシ君は逃げ出すような人じゃなかった。
Excuse me. Someone made him disappear, even though he wasn't abusing her. The police judged him to have run away from home, but Satoshi-kun wasn't the kind of person who would do that.
いつも一生懸命。
He was always earnest.
誰の力も借りずにコツコツと一人懸命に努力する人だった。
He would never ask for anyone's help. He would always drag himself through everything with hard work alone.
たった一人の妹のために身を粉にして頑張ってたのに消されてしまった。
He worked so hard he nearly ground his bones into dust, all for his one and only little sister. And yet someone made him disappear.
あの子のためにだけに生きていたのに消されてしまった。
She was the only thing he lived for. And yet someone made him disappear.
かわいそうなサトシ君。
Poor Satoshi-kun.
なんて報われないサトシ君。
He was never rewarded. That's Satoshi-kun.
なんて恩知らずなあの子なの。あの子は呪われた子。
How ungrateful that child is. She is cursed.
あの子に近づけばそれが誰でも末路は同じ。
All who get near her suffer the same fate.
たたりで死ぬかたたりで消えるか。
Or the curse kills them, or the curse makes them disappear.
あの子に安らぎなんてあるものか。あの子に安らぎなんてあるものか。
She cannot have any relief. She cannot have any relief.
リカちゃんが消えたのもきっとサトコのせいだよ。違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない違いない。
It's probably Satoko's fault that Rika-chan disappeared too. It has to be, 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 it has to be. Mion was mumbling words over and over that were no longer coherent. Her shoulders were trembling so hard that I could feel it through the ladder. I almost lost my footing, which made me realize just how far away the ground really was. Calm down, Mion!
何のことを言ってるのかわからないよ。
I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't sure she even heard me. Mion rocked back and forth, and that rocking and trembling was becoming even more violent. Help me! The ladder is falling. Help me! Help! Just then, I heard the sound of many people running towards us.
こだ
Over here! I very nearly said, help me, outright! 4 or 5 adults, led by Rena, ran over here with flashlights.
ケイチ君、みーちゃん、遅れてごめんね。
ケイチ君、みーちゃん、sorry it took so long.
鍵、借りてきたよ。
I borrowed the key.
お、助かったね。
Nice one.
どうも窓も戸締まりは完璧らしくてね。
Seems all the windows and doors are perfectly sealed.
困ってた。
I was getting worried. When I heard Mion talking like nothing had just happened, I again felt a chill running through me. The person currently holding the ladder in place, it was definitely Mion. It was the real Sonozaki Mion. Then, the person muttering to themselves just a few seconds ago. Who was that? The person who was mumbling about terrible things, like curses. Who was that? I jumped down from the ladder as if running away, before Mion turned into that person who wasn't Mion a second time. The adults tried a few different keys on a keyring as I tried to open the big shutter on the first floor.
リカちゃんの家はね、もともとは町会の防災倉庫だったの。
Rika-chan's house used to be a disaster shelter for the town council.
だからシャッターの鍵を今でも村長さんの家が預かってるの。
So the key to the shutter is still kept in the mayor's house.
今ではリカちゃんとサトコの指定だけど。
It's Rika-chan and Satoko's private residence now, though. Oh, I can't breathe. Oh.
まあ、もともとリカちゃんの家の敷地内だし。
Well, this is on Rika-chan's property anyway.
誰も文句は言わないけどね。
Nobody complains about it. Mion gave me a smile as she said that. I, however, could only return her gaze with an aghast expression. Mion was acting all too normal now, but that only contrasted all the more sharply with her earlier un-Mion-like creepiness. The shutter opened up for the first time in a very long while. I hurt my hand doing that. And then I located the light switch and wasted no time going inside. I followed her in.
リカちゃん、
Rika-chan!
サトコちゃん、
Satoko-chan!
いるなら返事をして。
If you're here, say something!
We climbed a narrow staircase. It had looked like nothing more than a warehouse, but now that I was inside, I could feel how lived in it was. It was a person's home. Somehow the scent of the two of them filled the place. This was definitely where Rika-chan and Satoko lived. The first floor doubled as a town assembly warehouse, but the second floor was a space entirely for living. Just like a one-room apartment. Past the kitchen was a living room, taking up about 150 square feet. Dressers, cupboards, and the like were packed into the space, and in the corner there was a huge pile of clothes that appeared to have just been taken in for drying outside. Anytime I see the inside of Rika and Satoko's house, it reminds me of like the really small camper that my dad's side of the family would go on during vacations to the beach when I was just a little kid. In the center of the living room was a fold-up table, and on it were small containers for things like soy sauce and salad dressing. The sense of a frugal lifestyle drifted from all of it. I'm going to go turn on the fan really quickly. Oh, sorry, the mic. Okay. It was strange that they weren't here in the middle of the night like this. The adults, climbing the stairs one at a time, began to make a fuss and talk amongst themselves.
どう
So,
やっぱりいない
not here? Sorry. I sounded all stuffed up. I'm having post-nasal drip like crazy.
Yeah,
いない。
they're not here.
絶対おかしい。
This is definitely weird.
The village just been thrown into chaos yesterday because of the mayor's disappearance. Then today, even Rika-chan and Satoko had... Were they out playing somewhere together? Oh, that can't be.
Their bicycles aren't here, though. Where would they have gone so late at night? Have they just not come back yet? Where did they go?
The adults put forth various possibilities, and the house immediately devolved into a state of confusion. Eventually, Mion settled them down.
信じたくないけど、君吉の村長さんが消えたのが昨日の今日。
I don't want to believe it, but the mayor, Kimiyoshi, disappeared yesterday.
無関係とは言い切れないね。
We can't say that this is unrelated.
The adults' faces paled at Mion's declaration. Mine and Rena's did as well.
例えば、ご近所に行ってお茶でもごちそうになって眠っちゃって。
Let's see. They could have gone nearby for some tea or something and accidentally fallen asleep.
起こすに起こせなくなってるなんて可能性ももちろんあるよね。
Whoever would have invited them might just not be able to wake them up at all, too.
その可能性をまず潰そう。
Let's eliminate that possibility first.
牧野さんは裏手から沢のあたりの家を回ってください。
Makina-san, please go around to the houses near the stream.
慶太郎さんはおじゃが池の方。
Keitaro-san, go look near Otaga Lake.
岡村さんは
Okamura-san, you.
Okamura-san, that's probably the dad of Okamura-kun. Mion promptly gave directions to the villagers. The adults followed them without hesitation, despite her age.
私はここに残って電話で片っ端から心当たりに問い合わせてみます。
We'll remain here and call up anyone we could think of on the phone.
じゃあ皆さん、そういうことで。
Okay, everyone, you have your orders.
Got it! The adults all word in reply and pounded back down the stairs below. I might have to blow my nose soon. I'm feeling all stuffed up. I want to sound all stuffy, you know?
さすがみーちゃんだね。
Wow, Mita.
みーちゃんは学校だけじゃなく、ひなみ沢の委員長さんみたいだよね。
You're not only chairperson of the school, but Hinamizawa too.
茶化さない茶化さない。
No time for jokes.
ほらどいて。
Hey, step aside.
おじさんは電話を使うんだから。
This old man is using the phone.
Mion grinned proudly, took the receiver, and got started. Rena gave Mion a trusting look, considering her dependable for doing all of this. My feelings, though, were a little more complicated, since her leadership seemed to be affirming the Sonozaki family successor impression that Shion and Ōishi had given me. Oh, I ran out of breath a little bit. Stop right there, my barakate. None of that matters right now. The most important thing is to make sure Rika-chan and Satoko are safe. Let's see. Couldn't there be a clue hinting at where they might have gone somewhere in this room?
とはいえ、そんなのわかるはずもないよな。
Still though, I wouldn't know what to look for anyway. If we tore the whole place apart and figured out what was different from before, we might be able to speculate, but there was nothing strange about this room, and there were no clues in sight. In the first place, I had never been here before. There was no way for me to know what was different if I didn't know how the room usually looked. Hey, don't give up, my Watanagashi. Stop thinking and start looking. For something! In search of something, I tried pulling open the dresser drawers and opened the windows. I didn't uncover anything meaningful, though. Rena, also unable to stand around doing nothing, was looking around the room like I was.
でもレナ、
Rena.
冷蔵庫や流しの下の棚とかを開いてもリカちゃんは見つからないと思うぞ。
I don't think you'll find Rika-chan by opening the refrigerator or the cabinet underneath the sink.
隠れてるかなって思って。
Oh jeez, cute mode is back.
I just thought they might be hiding.
As we were searching, it got noisy outside. Villagers were quickly assembling here, having heard the commotion. Of course, a lot of them were probably people Mion had called.
私、みんなに話をしてくる。
I'll go tell everyone what's going on.
遅かれ、警察も来るだろうしね。
The police will be here sooner or later, too.
大石のやつにも事情を説明しなきゃ。
We need to explain the situation to Ōishi. Mion began descending the stairs, and we followed her out to the front of the house. There were already around 10 adults there, and all of them looked uneasy. I suddenly noticed that the old people from the shrine were here as well, and they were praying for Rika-chan's safety, rubbing their prayer beads. This had gotten bad. This wasn't just a problem between friends anymore.
ミオンちゃん、リカちゃんとサトコちゃんがいなくなったってのは本当かい？
Mion-chan, is it true that Rika-chan and Satoko-chan aren't anywhere to be found? The villagers all formed a ring around Mion, swarming her. Mion raised her right hand as if silently telling them to calm down.
誰かの家にお邪魔していないか、町会の回覧区分に沿って全校をまず調べよう。
First, let's check every house according to the town council's notification division and see if they're visiting anyone.
本人たちがこっちの気も知らずに、誰かの家ですやすやとお泊まりしてる可能性もあるわけだからね。
I hope this chapter will be done soon, or at least this scene. After all, they could be fast asleep at someone's house and totally unaware that we're looking for them. It would definitely be hard for someone to wake up Rika-chan if she had eaten a good full meal and fallen asleep like a kitten afterwards. Oh, how nice it would be if that were the case.
こんなことは考えたくないけど、もちろん悪いことが起こった可能性もある。
I don't want to think about this, but it's also possible something bad has happened. Mion's face grew remarkably more grim, and a wave of silence washed over the adults.
我々も手分けしよう。
We should divide up the work too.
昨夜の村長探しで回ったところをもう一度回る。
We'll go around to all the places we went last night while looking for the mayor.
俺たちはダム現場をよく念入りに探してみる。
We'll go look around the damn construction site as best we can.
お前さんたちは学校のあたりを探してみてくれ。
You guys go search around the school.
おお。
Right!
したらはよ回らんと。
Let's get a move on. He's obviously from the Kansai region.
行こう行こう。
Come on, let's go!
みんな昨日も村長さん探しで徹夜だったからね。
All of you were up last night looking for the mayor.
寝不足で辛いだろうけど、どうかよろしく。
I know you're all low on sleep, but please do your best.
Oh!
Okay! With that as a signal, the adults scattered in every direction. Ugh. I feel so mucusy. I figured I should scatter somewhere as well, so I started walking unsteadily in a direction no one else had gone in. I was getting farther and farther and farther from people. I didn't feel scared or anything, though. If someone were made to disappear, Shion and I should be first. It would have been perfectly normal for me to be scared of the dark. However, I didn't feel that way. Why was that? It was because tonight, someone had already disappeared. So, nobody else would disappear tonight. It would take some time before I, exhausted as I was, would feel guilt at the cause of my own selfish sense of relief.
Higurashi no Naku Koro ni.
If this is the chapter end, then if this isn't the chapter end, then I'm just gonna have to call it anyway. Alright, I'm gonna have to save it here. It's just impossible for me to keep doing these voices in a clear and respectable manner while sounding all mucusy like this, so I'm just gonna save it here. Hopefully, well, it's pretty climactic, I'd say. Maybe it would have been a little more anticlimactic if I had just ended at the regular chapter. Who knows? I guess we'll find out next time. So, I love this music, by the way. You can find it on YouTube if you search Higurashi-hen OST gear. Someone linked it for me in Discord, so you can also find it that way too. Speaking of which, if you haven't joined our Discord yet, then feel free to do so. I'll pop the link up in chat. You should be able to see it, like, on the top left side of the screen. So anyway, there's a link to Discord. Join if you haven't. I'd love to have you there. So I'm gonna return to this this coming Monday. Tuesday we'll be beginning our playthrough of Rule of Rose, my very first playthrough, and I'll be so excited for that. It's gonna be through an emulator because actual hard copies of the game are so unbelievably rare. It's like one of the 3 most expensive games for the PS2. It's like the Trinity. It's Rule of Rose, Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, and Kuon. And all 3 of those are psychological horror games. So it's understandable how rare they've become because it's such a niche genre. But anyway, that'll be next week. So thank you all so much for watching, everyone. And as always, if you like what you see, please feel free to click like, comment, follow, join our Discord if you haven't. Any feedback you can give me at all will hopefully tailor my future content towards your interests. I'm Ray Rules Pastor, and until next time, Wale!